This is a statue of Robert the Bruce, one-time King of Scots, and he won a very famous victory a couple of miles from here where his statue stands at a place called Bannockburn. Now, why did he have to fight that battle against the English? It was in order to take back this. So come with me and I'll tell you all about it. My name is Sir Alistair Brodie. I'm the keeper of the Royal Unicorns here at Stirling Castle. This place has been the home of kings, queens, princes, princesses and the Argyll and Southern Highlanders. Come on, let's go. Now, Stirling Castle is still a very mighty fortress. It's going to take all of my might to get us in here. Now, the name Stirling is actually nothing to do with sterling, you know, the money that we use today. In fact, it's thought to come from the Gaelic word surlai, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. And there is different meanings, meaning place of battle or stream by the pool, and there is other suggested meanings. But you won't need to besiege the castle. You can simply purchase a ticket right here. One ticket, please. I've heard that there are some unicorn ducks in and around the castle. Now, I haven't seen any, but perhaps if you spot any, you can count them and let us know how many there are and where you've seen them. Below us is the Queen Anne Garden. This is a bit of a leisure area for the inhabitants of the castle. And just up above it there, behind me, is the magnificent palace built by James V for his new bride, Marie de Guise. She came all the way from France to be our Queen of Scots. So merci Marie. That's French, you know. There's something else I'd like to show you. It's considered very magical and mystical. I just can't see these unicorn ducks anywhere. Below the rocky crags of Stirling Castle sits a rather mystical garden known as the King's Knot. And that's not with a K. Well, it actually is with a K. It's K-N-O-T, as in not tie a knot. Do you see what I did there? Knot with a K, but it's got a, oh, never mind. Anyway, this garden has been here for centuries. We don't know exactly when, but it is one of the features that King James IV and James V and the VI and so on would have actually known. Now, James IV used to play tricks on some of his guests at the castle. Very early in the morning, he would have them woken up and he would have a herd of white deer brought on to the King's Knot, and from the castle, they actually looked like a herd of unicorns. I think this would be a wonderful place for unicorns to come and play. They can run up the ramps, they can race one another round the hexagon features in the garden. Don't you? Come on, isn't this place brilliant? We are now in the highest part of the castle, called the Inner Close. Behind me is the King's Old Building. Then we have the magnificent palace of James V. And here we have the Great Hall. And behind me, the Chapel Royal, hosting many royal baptisms, etc. all of these buildings were built at different kings in different times and different reigns, but I'm going to take you to a lovely wee part of the castle known as the Douglas Garden. So follow me. Well, this is the Douglas Gardens, and it's a very tranquil spot right here at the top of the castle. It's just so quiet and serene. I've actually just spotted something over my shoulder, and I'm going to back away quietly and let you enjoy what I'm enjoying. Douglas Garden also gives us another wee legend about the castle. Now, in ancient times there was a brownie, which is a kind of Scottish equivalent of like an elf or a nymph, and this brownie boasted that he could do everything bigger and better and quicker than any other person. One of the kings of Scots had heard of this brownie and his boasts, and the king challenged the brownie to see who could build a castle bigger, better and quicker than one another. The brownie took up this challenge, and the king got started building his palace very, 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 very slowly. The brownie, of course, he was going all out at a furious speed, and by the next day he had built the magnificent, great castle of Stirling. When he realised that the King of Scots had tricked him, the brownie stamped his feet and turned himself into a furious ball of fire, and he shot himself right out through the hole in the wall that we see there today. Of course, there's another legend that one of the stonemasons here, they're the men and the women that look after the stonework here at Stirling Castle, made this wee hole so that when Mary Queen of Scots was a wee lassie, she could stand and she could look out and she could see everyone returning from the hunt over at the King's Park, just beyond the other side of that wall. You decide what story you like best. Behind me is the Great Hall. Now, the first thing people notice is the colour of it. This is known as King's Gold. After all, it was built by King James IV, the King of Scots. And if you look up to the top of this hall here, you will see the unicorn and the royal lions of Scotland. They represent the kings and queens of this nation. At one point, the Great Hall was the biggest building in the whole of Scotland. The Parliament used to meet here, and all sorts of revelry and feasting would take place. We're going to take a wee look inside in just a minute. This is the Great Hall here in Stirling Castle. It can seat up to 500 people. It's huge! I mean, it's so huge that James VI, the King of Scots, had a 5-metre long model ship built in this hall to celebrate the baptism of his son, Prince Henry. It even had 36 small brass cannons. Boom! As the royals would enter the Great Hall, a musician would sound their instrument from the trumpeter's loft way up there. Anywho, to the palace. This is the Queen's inner hall. And this is where you'll get an audience with the Queen. And this is her throne. How do you do? let's look at some unicorns. It's why we're here after all. And when you get to visit the Queen's Inner Hall, you will see these fantastic tapestries behind me. Tapestry is like a carpet, but we don't put it on the floor and walk all over it. We hang it up for all the Queen's guests to see. Finding a unicorn is like finding your true love. And these men are searching for it, but they've not had much joy so far. This tapestry depicts the unicorns being found, and you'll notice that more people have joined in the search. You may also notice some ferocious creatures down the bottom there with their snarling teeth, hyenas and lions there. But the unicorn is using his horn to clean the water there so they can take it a drink and maybe calm down a little. That's the magic of the unicorn. In this tapestry, you will see that the unicorn is looking very happy. You may also note that the unicorn's head is that of a goat with its long, straggly beard. The beard is supposed to symbolise wisdom. A couple of interesting facts about the unicorn. It has the body of a horse for strength, and it has the tail of a lion that it swishes away its tracks so no one can follow it. Come all in. Welcome to the Queen's bedchamber. Now, only the most privileged of guests would actually get to speak with the Queen in this room. When you look all around at the fantastic curtains hanging on the wall and the silks and the velvet that cover the Queen's bed. But I have a secret to tell you. The Queen doesn't actually sleep in this room. This is the King's bedchamber. Very much like the Queen's bedchamber, they don't actually sleep here. It's for meeting very, very important guests. Have you ever heard the wee nursery rhyme, night night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, and wondered where it comes from? Well, in the olden days, your mattress used to sit on top of ropes like this. After a few days, if it starts to sag, your servants come in and they tighten the ropes. Night night, sleep tight. In the presence of this magnificent unicorn behind me here, I'd like to thank you all for joining me on this tour of Stirling Castle on National Unicorn Day. How many unicorn ducks did you actually manage to spot today? But please join us again at 12 o'clock for a magical unicorn puppet show.